There are encounters in life that test the very fabric of our patience and grace. Toxic individuals, those who seem bent on criticism, manipulation, or discord, pose such a challenge. Yet, in addressing this issue, we must first confront a sobering truth: toxicity is often a symptom of inner brokenness. To deal with these individuals is to tread carefully, for we are called to address not just their actions, but the impact on our own hearts. Toxic behavior often originates from deep within the person exhibiting it, like a storm brewing unseen beneath calm waters. Such behavior is frequently less about others and more a reflection of internal struggles, fears, and unresolved wounds. Understanding this truth requires a shift in perspective, one that allows us to separate the action from the person, much like distinguishing the melody from the instrument producing it. Toxicity, though unpleasant and disruptive, is often a cry for help, a manifestation of insecurity, pain, or even a misguided attempt to assert control over their environment when their internal world feels chaotic. It is tempting to react emotionally when faced with hurtful words or actions. The sting of such encounters can feel intensely personal, as though they are a direct assault on our worth or character. Yet pausing to consider the root of the behavior can diffuse much of its power. If we understand that a sharp word or manipulative act may stem from a place of fear or inadequacy, we are less likely to absorb it as truth about ourselves. This shift does not excuse their actions, nor does it demand that we tolerate them, but it equips us with a lens of compassion through which to view their humanity. Imagine for a moment encountering a wounded animal. Its pain might cause it to lash out, bite, or growl. The reaction, while unpleasant, is not a reflection of malice but of suffering. Toxic individuals in their own way often behave similarly. Their actions, though damaging, are rooted in their struggle. A deeper understanding of this dynamic can foster patience in us, not to endure harm passively, but to respond with clarity and wisdom rather than immediate retaliation. To see clearly, we must also confront our own tendencies. Do we internalize their negativity, allowing it to seed self-doubt? Do we mirror their behavior, escalating a cycle of conflict? Recognizing the nature of toxicity is not only about understanding others, but also about examining how we interact with them. In doing so, we learn to respond in a way that preserves our dignity and integrity. This perspective also invites us to acknowledge that we too are capable of toxic behavior under certain circumstances. None of us is immune to acting out of pain or fear. Recognizing this shared vulnerability can soften our judgment and create space for empathy. Empathy, however, does not mean excusing harmful actions or enduring them indefinitely. It means approaching these encounters with a sense of balance, holding others accountable while refusing to let their behavior define us. Understanding the nature of toxicity allows us to step back and approach difficult interactions with a sense of purpose rather than reaction. It transforms these encounters from battles to be won into opportunities for growth for ourselves and perhaps for the other person. By seeing beyond the surface, we open the door to both protecting our own well-being and engaging with others in a way that reflects wisdom and compassion. The health of your inner life is a treasure of immeasurable worth, deserving vigilant care and attention. In the presence of toxic individuals, this inner world is often at risk of being overshadowed or disrupted. Just as one protects a flame from strong winds to ensure it continues to burn brightly, so must one guard the delicate essence of their peace and emotional stability against the forces that threaten to extinguish it. To guard your inner peace, it is vital to understand the role of boundaries. Boundaries are not acts of rejection or hostility, but are expressions of self-respect and wisdom. They define the space in which your emotional and spiritual well-being can thrive. Imagine your soul as a sacred garden, one that requires careful tending. Without a clear boundary, weeds, those invasive elements of negativity, manipulation, and chaos can easily take root, choking out the flowers of joy, clarity, and purpose. Setting boundaries is the act of fencing your garden, not to shut the world out entirely, but to ensure that only what nurtures and uplifts you is allowed within. It can be tempting to feel guilt when establishing these limits, especially with those we care for deeply. Toxic individuals often thrive on guilt, subtly or overtly making you feel selfish for prioritizing your own well-being. However, it is not selfish to protect what is sacred within you. It is a responsibility. Without peace in your own heart, you are ill-equipped to offer meaningful support to others. Consider the example of a well. If it runs dry, it cannot provide water to anyone, no matter how desperate the need. Guarding your inner peace ensures that your well remains full, capable of nourishing both yourself and those who approach you in good faith. There is also wisdom in choosing where to invest your energy. Toxic individuals, by their very nature, drain this precious resource, often leaving you emotionally depleted. Recognize that not every battle is worth fighting and not every person's approval is worth seeking. By choosing your interactions carefully, you conserve your strength for the things and people that truly matter. This is not avoidance but prioritization, a deliberate decision to nurture what enriches you rather than engage with what diminishes you. Maintaining your inner peace requires practice and vigilance. It means pausing before reacting, breathing deeply when provoked, and reminding yourself that not every situation demands your involvement. There is a quiet power in walking away from unnecessary conflict, in choosing silence over argument, and in embracing solitude rather than enduring harmful company. These actions are not signs of weakness but of profound inner strength. Above all, guarding your inner peace is an act of trust in the value of your own soul and in the wisdom of stepping back from what harms it. It is not about shutting others out, but about choosing to preserve the space in which you can grow, thrive, and reflect the light that resides within you. When you honor this peace, you honor yourself and create the foundation for a life lived with purpose and clarity. When faced with toxic individuals, it is natural to feel the urge to react in kind, to meet their negativity with anger, their manipulation with resistance, or their hostility with equal force. Yet to do so often draws us into a spiral of conflict that leaves both sides diminished. Instead, the key to dealing with such individuals lies in responding with grace and wisdom, two virtues that allow us to rise above the fray without compromising our integrity. Responding with grace begins with restraint. It requires the discipline to pause before reacting, to consider not only what has been said or done, but also the best way to respond. Toxic individuals often thrive on provocation, feeding off the reactions they elicit. By refusing to give them the satisfaction of an emotional outburst, we deny them the control they seek to exert over us. This is not a sign of passivity, but of strength, a deliberate choice to act from a place of clarity rather than impulse. Grace also involves a measure of empathy. While it is not our responsibility to fix or excuse another person's behavior, recognizing that their actions stem from their own struggles can help us avoid taking their words or deeds personally. Empathy allows us to see their humanity, even when their behavior is hurtful. It is a way of acknowledging their pain without letting it dictate our response. This perspective helps to maintain a sense of balance, ensuring that our actions reflect our values rather than their provocations. Wisdom, on the other hand, equips us with discernment. It helps us to determine when to engage and when to step back, when to speak, and when silence is more powerful. Not every comment demands a reply, and not every slight needs to be addressed. Wisdom allows us to pick our battles carefully, focusing on what truly matters rather than being drawn into every confrontation. It teaches us that sometimes the most impactful response is no response at all, a refusal to participate in the negativity being projected. There is a skill in crafting our words and actions so that they diffuse rather than escalate tension. A gentle answer, spoken calmly and firmly, can often disarm even the most aggressive person. Such a response does not imply agreement with their behavior, but it communicates that we will not be dragged into their chaos. It establishes a boundary while maintaining our dignity and self-control. At times, responding with grace and wisdom means setting consequences. Toxic behavior that consistently crosses boundaries cannot be allowed to persist unchecked. In such cases, it is both gracious and wise to communicate your limits clearly and enforce them firmly. This is not about retaliation, but about protecting your peace and ensuring that the relationship remains as healthy as possible. Responding with grace and wisdom is not about changing the toxic person, it is about preserving your own integrity. It is about choosing to act in a way that reflects the best of who you are, regardless of the circumstances. By doing so, you not only maintain your inner peace, but also create the possibility, however small, that your example might inspire the other person to reflect and change. There are moments in life when the most courageous and compassionate choice is to walk away. This can be particularly true when dealing with toxic individuals, those whose presence consistently erodes your peace, diminishes your confidence, or draws you into cycles of conflict and negativity. Walking away is not a sign of weakness or defeat. Rather, it is a profound act of self-respect and self-preservation. It acknowledges that your well-being matters and that it is not your responsibility to remain in a relationship or situation that harms you. Choosing to distance yourself from a toxic person begins with the recognition that not every relationship is meant to endure. Some connections, though significant for a time, may ultimately hinder rather than help your growth. This is not a failure, but a natural part of life's journey. People change, circumstances evolve, and sometimes paths that once ran parallel must diverge. Understanding this truth allows you to approach the decision to walk away with clarity and without unnecessary guilt. It is also important to recognize that walking away is not an act of abandonment or cruelty. It does not mean you stop caring for the person or wishing them well. Instead, it means accepting that your presence in their life is no longer beneficial to them or to you. By stepping away, you create space for both of you to reflect, grow, and perhaps find healthier ways of relating to others. In some cases, this separation may even serve as a wake-up call, prompting the toxic individual to confront their behavior and seek change. Walking away requires courage because it often means stepping into the unknown. The ties we have with others, even when unhealthy, can feel familiar and comforting in their own way. Letting go of these ties can be deeply unsettling. Yet, it is in this very act of letting go that we reclaim our power, the power to choose relationships and environments that nurture us rather than harm us. It is an act of faith, trusting that what lies ahead is better than what you leave behind. This decision also requires discernment. It is not about fleeing at the first sign of difficulty or conflict. All relationships require effort, patience, and compromise. However, when the pattern of behavior consistently undermines your well-being and shows no sign of improvement despite honest efforts to address it, walking away becomes not just an option but a necessity. It is an acknowledgement that you cannot heal someone who refuses to take responsibility for their actions or address their own wounds. Walking away is an act of grace for yourself and for the other person. It allows you to protect the sanctity of your inner peace and encourages them to confront their behavior in your absence. It is a reminder that love and compassion are not synonymous with endurance and that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let go. By walking away, you choose freedom to grow, to heal, and to move forward unburdened by the weight of a relationship that no longer serves you. Forgiveness, often misunderstood, is one of the most powerful and transformative acts a person can undertake. When dealing with toxic individuals, forgiveness is not about condoning harmful behavior or pretending it did not hurt. Rather, it is about freeing yourself from the chains of resentment, anger, and bitterness that can tether you to the pain they caused. It is an act of liberation, allowing you to reclaim your emotional and spiritual well-being and move forward unencumbered. To forgive does not mean to forget. The harm inflicted by toxic behavior leaves real wounds, and pretending otherwise denies the reality of your experience. Instead, forgiveness begins with acknowledgement, facing the truth of what happened and the impact it has had on you. It is only by naming the pain that you can begin to let it go. This process requires courage, for it demands that you confront the hurt without allowing it to define you. At its heart, forgiveness is an act of choice. It is not something that happens passively or over time without effort. It requires a deliberate decision to release the hold that the past has on your present. This does not mean excusing the behavior or reconciling with the individual, especially if they remain toxic or unrepentant. Forgiveness is an internal process, a gift you give to yourself rather than to the other person. It is a declaration that you will not allow their actions to dictate your peace or your future. The transformative power of forgiveness lies in its ability to break the cycle of negativity. Toxic individuals often create a ripple effect, spreading their pain to those around them. When you choose to forgive, you stop the ripple in its tracks. You refuse to perpetuate the anger and bitterness, instead creating space for healing and growth. This is not just a personal victory, it is a profound act of defiance against the darkness that toxicity seeks to spread. Forgiveness also requires humility, for it invites you to reflect on your own imperfections. While this does not diminish the wrongs done to you, it reminds you of the shared humanity between you and the person who hurt you. We are all flawed, and while some flaws manifest in destructive ways, others may be subtler but no less impactful. This perspective does not excuse toxic behavior but softens the edges of judgment, making forgiveness a more attainable goal. Forgiveness is an ongoing process. It is not a single act, but a journey, one that may require revisiting as memories resurface or emotions are triggered. There may be days when the burden feels lifted and others when the pain seems fresh. This is natural and does not mean you have failed. Each time you choose forgiveness anew, you reaffirm your commitment to your peace and healing. In forgiving, you claim the power to shape your own narrative. You move from being a victim of someone else's actions to an active participant in your own healing. Forgiveness does not erase the past, but transforms its hold on you, allowing you to carry the lessons without the weight of bitterness. It is the ultimate act of freedom, a way to step into a future unburdened and full of possibility. In navigating the trials of dealing with toxic individuals, we are confronted with opportunities for profound growth and transformation. These challenges, though difficult, reveal the importance of understanding the nature of toxicity, safeguarding our inner peace, responding with grace and wisdom, knowing when to walk away, and embracing the freedom of forgiveness. Each of these steps is not only a means to protect ourselves, but also a path to becoming stronger, wiser, and more compassionate individuals. Toxic people do not define us, our responses to them do. By choosing clarity over confusion, peace over conflict, and forgiveness over resentment, we shape a life guided by integrity and purpose. These encounters, while painful, serve as refining fires that test and strengthen the core of who we are. The goal is not to change the toxic individuals we encounter, but to ensure they do not change us for the worse. In rising above their negativity, we honor the light within us and create space for healing and growth. Let us walk forward not as victims of toxicity, but as stewards of our own well-being, armed with the wisdom and grace to live in alignment with our values. For in overcoming these trials, we discover not only peace, but also the resilience and beauty of our own character.